My brothers and sisters, how many times have you raised your hands and felt like your dua was not being answered? How many times did you cry to Allah, but the situation didn't change immediately? Remember this? It is not about the length of your words, nor the power of your voice. What matters is the sincerity of your heart and the way you speak to Allah. If you talk to Him with love, humility, trust, your dua will never be wasted. Allah hears every whisper, every tear, every silent thought in your heart. Today, let us discover how to speak to Allah in a way that brings peace to your soul and allows your prayers to be answered in the best way. Dua is one of the greatest acts of worship a believer can perform. It is not just about uttering words with the tongue, but about pouring out the feelings of the heart before Allah, acknowledging His greatness and confessing our weakness. One of the key conditions for an accepted dua is sincerity. Without sincerity, dua becomes an empty ritual, but with sincerity, it becomes a powerful means of drawing closer to Allah and having our prayers answered. What does sincerity in dua mean? It means calling upon Allah with complete faith, humility and honesty, only His help and pleasure. It is to recognize that no one else can truly grant us what we need or remove the difficulties we face. The Quran describes the state of sincere dua beautifully. When they board a ship, they supplicate Allah, being sincere to Him in religion. But when He delivers them to the land, at once they associate others with Him. So Surah Al-Ankabut 29:65. This verse shows how even those who may forget Allah in daily life instinctively turn to Him sincerely in times of crisis, because deep inside they know only Allah can save them. The Prophet also emphasized sincerity in dua. He said, call upon Allah while being certain of being answered. Know that Allah does not respond to a dua from a heedless heart that is not focused, tamidi. This hadith highlights two key aspects of sincerity, certainty, and focus kasht. When making dua, we should not doubt whether Allah hears us. He hears every whisper, even the thoughts in our hearts. At the same time, our minds should be present. We should avoid making dua mechanically while our hearts are distracted. Another part of sincerity is to make dua purely for Allah's sake, not as a show to others. Sometimes people make loud or eloquent duas to impress those around them, but such duas lack sincerity. The most powerful dua is often the one whispered quietly late at night with tears in the eyes, known only to Allah. The Prophet said, the best dua is that which is made in secret. Ibn Hibban. Sincerity also means not giving up when dua seems unanswered. Sometimes Allah delays His response because He loves to hear His servant calling upon Him, or because He wants to give something far greater at the right time. If we stop making dua out of impatience, shows a lack of sincerity and trust. To achieve sincerity, we must remind ourselves of Allah's mercy and power before making dua. Begin with praising Him, sending blessings upon the Prophet, and then present your needs. Pour out your heart without pretense, just as a child cries to a parent. In short, sincerity in dua is about being real with Allah. It is to call upon Him with conviction, humility and love, knowing He is the only one who listens and cares. A sincere dua, even if short and simple, carries more weight than long, eloquent words said without presence of heart. When we talk about dua, we must remember that it is not just about asking Allah for something we want, but it is about entering into a conversation with our Creator. Dua is the most intimate form of worship, and like all forms of worship, it has its manners, adab, that make it more beloved to Allah and more effective for us. Having adab in supplication shows humility, respect and love for Allah, and it also helps us feel the spiritual depth of our own words. The first and most important manner is to begin dua by praising Allah. The Prophet taught us that before asking Allah for anything, we should glorify Him by saying words like Alhamdulillah's all praise is due to Allah. Subhanallah's glory be to Allah. And all who akbars Allah is the greatest. This not only honors Allah, but also reminds us of His greatness and power, strengthening our faith that He can answer our prayers. The second step is to send blessings upon the Prophet. The Messenger of Allah said that every dua is suspended until we send a lot upon him. By beginning with we beautify our dua and ensure it is raised in rank before Allah. Another adab of dua is raising the hands humbly. The Prophet would raise his blessed hands when making dua, showing dependence on Allah. This physical act symbolizes our need, just like a beggar stretches his hand for help. But more important than raising the hands is lowering the heart in humility. Our hearts should be broken before Allah, filled with need and submission. Facing the Qibla and being in a state of purity is also among the etiquettes. Although not compulsory, it shows respect and discipline. When we prepare ourselves physically, it influences the sincerity of our words spiritually. Another important manner is to call upon Allah by His beautiful names, Al-Azmi Al-Yasin. For example, when asking for forgiveness, we say, Ya Gaffer, Ya Rizam, forgive me. When asking for provision, we say, Le Razio Kareem, grant me rizq. This shows that we know and acknowledge Allah's attributes and that we are turning to Him with love and recognition of His perfection. We should also make dua with certainty and hope. The Prophet A said, call upon Allah while being certain of His response. A common mistake is making dua without conviction, as if doubting whether Allah will respond. But part of the adab is to ask knowing that Allah listens and that He will respond in the best way. Finally, persistence in dua is part of the manners. Even if the answer seems delayed, we should not give up. The Prophet warned against saying, I made dua but I was not answered. Rather, the believer continues to ask, knowing that every dua is recorded and every word is heard. In short, the adab of dua teaches us that we are not merely reciting words but conversing with Allah, the King of Kings. By praising Him, sending blessings on the Prophet, showing humility, calling upon His beautiful names, and asking with hope and certainty, our dua becomes more meaningful, more sincere, and more beloved to Allah. One of the most important aspects of making dua is clarity and consistency. Dua is not only about speaking to Allah, but also about understanding what we are asking for and remaining steadfast in our requests. Many people make dua in a rushed or vague manner, but the Prophet emphasized that when we ask, we should ask clearly, sincerely, and with persistence. This clarity and consistency not only strengthen our connection with Allah, but also reflect the seriousness of our desires and the sincerity of our hearts. Clarity in dua means being specific in what we ask from Allah. The Prophet has said, when one of you asks Allah, let him be specific in his request. For example, instead of saying generally, Oh Allah, bless me, one could say, Oh Allah, bless me with good health, lawful provision, strong faith, and protection from sins. Being clear in dua shows that we know what we want, and it helps us focus on our goals in both worldly and spiritual matters. It also shows humility before Allah, because we acknowledge our exact needs instead of speaking vaguely. Another point about clarity is to avoid asking for harmful or impossible things. The Prophet taught us not to make dua for something that goes against Allah's wisdom, like asking for death without reason or for harm to others unjustly. A believer's dua should always be noble, positive, and in line with what pleases Allah. Consistency in dua is equally important. The Prophet loved actions that were consistent even if they were small. This principle applies to dua as well. Sometimes people ask Allah once or twice and then stop because they feel their prayers are not answered. But the reality is every dua is heard, and Allah either grants it immediately, delays it for a better time, or replaces it with something even better. Consistency shows faith and patience. The Prophet gave the example of persistence in dua by himself, repeating the same requests multiple times. He would ask Allah 3 times for a matter, showing determination. This does not mean we are impatient. Rather, it means we continue to knock on Allah's door, because we know He is the only one who can answer. Consistency also includes making dua in all conditions, not only in hardship. Many people remember Allah only when they face difficulties, but true believers remember Him in times of ease as well. The Prophet said, remember Allah in times of ease, He will remember you in times of hardship. When dua becomes part of our daily routine, it reflects a heart that is constantly connected to its Creator. Finally, clarity and consistency together build a powerful spiritual habit. Clear dua sharpens our goals and strengthens our reliance on Allah, while consistent dua ensures that we remain patient, hopeful, connected to Him. Even if the response seems delayed, we trust that Allah's timing is perfect and that no dua goes unanswered. In short, when making dua, be specific, clear, and humble in your words, and be consistent in repeating them with patience and trust. This is the way of the prophets and the righteous. And it is the path that brings us closer to Allah's mercy and blessings. When we raise our hands in dua, we often hope for an immediate answer. Our hearts long for relief, solutions, and blessings to come instantly. But one of the greatest lessons of faith is learning to trust Allah's response. Even when it does not come in the way or at the time we expect, dua is never wasted. And Allah, in His infinite wisdom, responds to every prayer in the best possible way for His servant. The Prophet said, there is no Muslim who makes dua except that Allah gives him one of 3 things. He either answers his request quickly, or He stores it for him in the hereafter, or He averts a harm from him equivalent to it. This hadith beautifully explains the reality of dua. Sometimes Allah answers right away, sometimes He delays because the timing is not right, and sometimes He gives us something better by protecting us from harm. Trusting Allah's response requires deep faith in His wisdom. We see only a small part of our life, while Allah knows the unseen, the past, present, and future. Something we desperately want may in reality harm our faith, health, or future. Out of mercy, Allah may withhold it, even though we feel disappointment at the time. Later in life, when we reflect, we often realize that Allah's plan was far greater than our own. This trust is closely tied to the concept of tawakkul, placing reliance on Allah. Tawakkul means we put in our effort, make due sincerely, but then leave the outcome to Allah with contentment. It is not passive waiting. Rather, it is active faith, doing our part while knowing that Allah will never wrong us. The Quran reminds us, and whoever relies upon Allah, then He is sufficient for him. Surah Talaq 653. Another important aspect of trusting Allah's response is to avoid haste and despair. The Prophet warned us not to say, I made do but I was not answered. Such thinking reflects impatience and a lack of faith in Allah's timing. Do is a form of worship, and when we make it consistently, we are rewarded even if we do not see immediate results. Every do strengthens our relationship with Allah and polishes our heart, regardless of the outcome. Trust also means recognizing that every response is a form of mercy. If Allah grants us what we want, it is His generosity. If He delays, it is His wisdom. If He denies, it is His protection. Believing this brings peace to the heart, because we know that our affairs are in the hands of the one who loves us more than we can imagine. In practical life, this mindset changes everything. Instead of feeling frustrated when prayers seem unanswered, we remain calm and hopeful. Instead of giving up, we continue making do, knowing that each supplication is recorded and rewarded. This patience and trust turn do into a source of strength, not disappointment. In conclusion, trusting Allah's response is about surrendering our limited vision to His infinite wisdom. It means believing that no do goes unheard and every prayer brings benefit, either in this world or the next. The believer's heart remains hopeful, patient, and content, because true faith is not only in asking but also in accepting Allah's perfect answer.